We have this from NBC News. FBI agents express shock and dismay over naming of right-wing podcaster to number 2 post.
Fire them all.
This man on a right-wing podcast.
Dan Bongino, who once called the FBI irredeemably corrupt, suggested on his podcast Monday that he was prepped to step out of his role as a MAGA warrior. Now, I just want to show you this tweet from Ken Delanian. I'm so happy, Ken, that your emotions boiled your brain and you exposed yourself as a Fed. I mean that figuratively, not literally. Calm down. Just put your phone down. You're not calling your lawyers. He says, traditionally, the deputy FBI director has been a career FBI agent. That is particularly important when the director has no experience at the FBI. Donald Trump tonight announced he is appointing as deputy director Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent and prolific conspiracy theorist. He has never spent a day working at the FBI, but he has spent many hours spouting baseless falsehoods about the Bureau, such as that the FBI lied when they said they don't have a suspect in the pipe bombs as outside the RNC and the DNC on 1/15/21. Current and former FBI officials are appalled and extremely concerned for the national security of the country. Here's how I explain this. This is important, right? This tweet really, I was like, wow. He's got 3 million views on this tweet.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. If, I'm a podcaster, right? If Donald Trump announced that he was appointing a golf czar and it was going to be Michael Jordan, I would go, does Jordan play golf? And someone would be like, he does. He's not like a pro or anything. I'd be like, okay. And that's about it. I'd be like, I don't play golf. Is there a better golf player? Wouldn't know him. Mm-hmm. Tiger Woods, he's pretty good. Saw him on TV once. Not really much I can be upset about because I have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. So if Donald Trump, and bear with me here, he said he was going to announce he was going to have an Olympic skateboarding czar. I'd be like, okay, well, hold on. Now and then he announces it's a scooter kid, like Serge. Then I'm going to be like, whoa, I am outraged. What are you talking about? My point is, Ken Delanian got very emotional over the FBI's structure. So, Ken, you're a journalist at NBC. I mean, you have literally no overlap with the structure of the FBI and literally no reason to be angry at the appointment of Dan Bongino. So what about this completely unrelated professional field and Donald Trump's choice has you so apoplectic that you would begin emotionally deriding Dan Bongino and then complaining in such a manner?
I think Ken's mockingbird is showing.
And the last line there, current and former FBI officials are appalled. If you're appalled, leave.
Well, hold on.
If you're appalled, you should not be at the FBI. Get out.
When he wrote current and former FBI officials are appalled, is he referring to himself?
Yeah. I mean,
his coworkers.
The fact that they leave out his time in New York, the NYPD, and his time in Secret Service, it just shows that they're not looking to be honest. They're looking to discredit. They're not looking to actually inform anyone. They're trying to scare people. They're trying to look for means to discredit unfairly. And so,
can I just point something out too? Dan Bongino was a special agent with the Secret Service. Mm-hmm. That means he is a man who volunteered for a job where he would use his own body to shield the lives of others. Yeah. That is honor.
Mm-hmm. Secret Service under Obama. Remember, so they say, right-wing podcast. He protected Obama for how many years?
This is a guy who took a job volunteering to use his body as a shield for Barack Obama. And they're like, he's a far right. No, I think he's a good dude who deeply cares about his country and is willing to sacrifice wealth and luxury for the betterment of his nation and what he believes in. And I'm deeply impressed. And I look at this post, you got all these stories, we have the NPR, what to know about Dan Bongino, but, Ken Delanian's outrage here really reeks of personal involvement. And that's the point. I hope one of the first things we get from Kash and Dan is, to whatever degree they can, right? We want to respect the First Amendment. If these corporate news outlets had any deals or connections with the feds, it will be within the purview of the FBI to release the documents related to that, as it is from their own departments.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I hope, should there be, they do. Who knows? I mean, I think there are, but we'll see.
It would be lovely.
These headlines that call him a podcaster and totally skip over his past are like, they do it in the inverse with Soleimani when he died.
Oh, right.
And they were like most revered soldier or leader or whatever.
Or the ISIS guy, and they said I'm an austere scholar.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But this is but there's also the inverse in the United States. There will be someone who's a DEI coach, and they'll make up these great credentials. Mm-hmm. He was a an award-winning artist who discovered diversity, and then it's like he was a janitor, and he went to an online course one time.
Right.
They flip it around. So I'm wondering, Kash and Dan, man, where do they go first? And I don't know, man. Epstein files are on Pam Bondi's desk.
Yeah, what's taking her so long?
I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are saying like, get it done, get it. No, take your time, do it right.
Very curious to see why it's that. Most of these people are living, is what I'm assuming too.
Well, so
that's a lot of the problem with the Epstein stuff. These are people that are living.
Kash gave an interview where he said, I think it was Kash. He said, the thing is, most of the answers, he's like, I've seen the JFK files. Most of the questions you've asked, you got the answers.
Huh.
The things that are classified are not related to the questions you're asking. So he's like, I can't really say much more than that. He's like, but they should be released. And so I think the important thing to understand is just because something isn't released doesn't mean it's relevant to the issue we want. My point ultimately is I trust Pam Bondi. I especially trust Kash and Dan.
Yeah.
And when Pam is like, I've got the Epstein list on my desk, let's make sure they do this properly. What I don't want to see is if the story comes out and there's something in it that's lacking context, which misdirects people, it can actually protect the evil. If there's something in there that's, it has to be done properly. And I'm not going to say I want to wait a year or anything. I'm saying like a month or two, let's give them time to go through it and figure out, what's going on. Because we don't know. The question ultimately comes down to, do you trust your FBI? And here's what I'm going to say. I fully expect, no, I demand, that Kash and Dan will maintain the secrecy of classified and top secret information as required by law and as required by President Trump. The issue is how I feel based on what I know and have researched over the past 20 years is that the previous administration's intelligence agencies and investigative wings, the NSA, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, have been untrustworthy and have classified things for their own protection and corrupt actions. What I want is a proper classification system to truly safeguard Americans' national security. I do not believe the previous administrations were doing that. I expect Dan and Kash to keep things classified should they actually be within the national security. But ultimately, it comes down to this. If Kash walked up to me and said, Tim, these documents I want are classified for national security reasons, my response to Kash would be like, all right, buddy, I'm trusting you on this one. My response to the previous administration is, you have lied so many times, you are lying to me now.
Right. Yeah. There's no reason to believe the previous administration. In fact, there's
every reason to disbelieve them.
Exactly.
There actually is.
100%. And look, the government does overclassify things, and they do it so that way they don't have to answer questions.
Right.
If they can get away with classifying it just so that way they don't have to think about it, they're going to. And that's a culture of secrecy in Washington that really needs to end. Yeah. The idea that the FBI there should be things that are secret in order to protect witnesses and to protect ongoing investigations. But otherwise, like once the investigation's done, once the people have been arrested, once the trial's happened, there's no reason for any of that stuff to continue to be classified or to keep be secret.
Well,
you disagree?
Well, there's challenging things in that's why I said context matters. Certain documents in the Epstein case may relate to ancillary and ongoing investigations. Yep. So let's say they've got documents where they're like, insert high-profile media executive was on the island with Epstein doing this thing at a party where he said to insert other corrupt pharmaceutical agents on the phone, this, that, or otherwise. And then they say, imagine Kash or Dan as they're like, look, man, we want to give you these names. It could compromise us going after this other criminal in a side case. So there could be reasons. And that's ultimately the big challenge on this one. And that's usually why these things remain classified. The question ultimately comes down to, do you trust the current administration? And I got to tell you, you said it right, Joey. The previous administration, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, they've given us nothing but reasons to distrust them. Right. Trump has continually given us reasons to trust him as long as it's not related to something personal to Trump's ego. Yeah. Because if it's like crowd size or the carrot gold of his toilet, then he's going to talk a big game. But usually, like when Trump came out,
Look, 10-carat difference is a lot. 10-carat.
or the square footage, things that don't really matter that much.
But when it comes to the country,
My toilet
Is it the big-
15 square feet. It's huge.
Actually the second biggest and the third most beautiful. But you'll never hear him admit that.
Trump came out in his first term. He gets asked a question, and he outright just says, "We're going to sell a lot of weapons to Saudi Arabia. It's great, going to be great for our economy." And all of these anti-war leftists, their jaws at the floor, and they were like, he just said it. He just came out and admitted what American Middle Eastern foreign policy is.
Yeah.
He just admitted it. And I'm like, yes. And The Intercept called him the most dishonest, honest president we've ever had. Because Trump will bloviate and exaggerate things that don't really matter so long as it's like how tall he is and what is his weight and, like how many strokes below par. Like, it's like, we don't really care, but Trump talks a big game. But when it comes to matters that the people actually want to know about, Trump, he'll straight up tell you. He'll be like, yeah, we sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. It's hundreds of millions of dollars that goes into our economy. And you're like, oh, all right.
Sweet.
So long story short, I want to see this stuff declassified. But I do trust Kash, Dan, and Pam Bondi and the Trump administration to do the best of their abilities.
I wonder, Kash being put in charge of ATF made me think of Ruby Ridge, and like, are they going to say like, we're sorry, we apologize for this total mess up?
I have a lot of thoughts about stuff like Ruby Ridge, particularly when it comes to, like we were discussing earlier, a lot of the enforcement, or if I understand correctly, the majority of the enforcement arm of the ATF has been moved to the border.
Right.
Right. And so that is taking them off of the thing of doing things like harassing people for a barrel that's like 2 or 3 inches too short. Right. And that was the whole pretense of Ruby Ridge. Right. If it wasn't for the NFA, that family wouldn't have been killed.
Yeah.
And so these kind of laws do matter, right? The idea that, the barrel on your rifle is too short, or you have a silencer that the serial number is scuffed on. Right. And that's the kind of stuff that the ATF would absolutely have picked people up and ruined their lives for. Yes. The ATF does not exist in order to destroy the lives of otherwise law-abiding Americans. These are registration issues. These are not about people that are intending to be criminals. If you have a rifle that has a barrel that's too short, or a shotgun that has a barrel that's too short, that is not some kind of evidence that you're intending to do a crime.
But there was that one video that went viral where the ATF guy got arrested by local cops.
And good.
He was trying to, he was like, he didn't have a warrant or anything. He went to someone's house to ask him, and he wouldn't leave. And the cops were like, bro. And then he resisted arrest. But I should, I was trying to think about what this feels like with Kash Patel. And, it feels like all throughout the year, you were telling your parents, like, you really just wanted a PS5 for Christmas. And then finally, a few months out, they're like, we're going to get you a PS5, and you're freaking out. And then when you open it up, not only did they get you the PS5, they got you the deluxe bundle with a bunch of pre-downloaded high-end games, and you get more than you bargained for.
Yeah. The PS6, actually.
It's actually much better. Dan Bongino it's actually Dan Bongino handing you the PlayStation. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.